New Aquascape in my 65 gallon. No problems for 3 weeks, then 6 fish dead in 24 hours. What did I do wrong? Hi everyone, it's Connor. I was planning to do a 1 month update on my 65 gallon Aquascape, but this is not the video I wanted or expected to make. You'll see the nice islands I had made in the tank are no more. A destroyed Aquascape is not a big deal, but as I hinted it in the intro, things turned into a disaster real quick. This is by far the biggest disaster I've had while keeping fish. I went from realizing something was off the night before to waking up to a clown loach dead to a total of 6 fish dead by that night. I never had a problem escalate so quick, so I had to act fast. So anyway, let me walk you through the full story, talk about what I did wrong, how I fixed the issue, and finally close out with what I could have done to prevent this issue. And hopefully hearing the story will help you avoid a problem like this from ever happening to you. So I'll just go in chronological order here. So I'll start at the first evening. So, around dinner time, I had realized something was off with the tank. In this corner here, all my clown loaches were gathered and they were breathing very heavy. And that's very odd. They're usually either very active swimming around or they're hiding, just like you see my one hiding now. I also noticed the rest of my fish looked pretty stressed. They looked like they were breathing heavy as well, and the blood parrots were pale, which generally indicates stress. Otherwise, mine usually have pretty nice color. And in general, everyone just kind of looked stressed and wasn't really active. Now, I kept an eye on them, and then close to bedtime, I noticed that things kind of just looked worse. Everybody kind of looked more stressed. The behavior hadn't changed over that time. I was probably checking in every half hour or so. And so I decided to do some more research. The other one thing I noticed about the tank was the water kind of looked a little bit cloudy. So I kind of looked up all that, and especially the fish having trouble breathing, and it seemed that I had a bacterial bloom. I just wanted to do a quick explanation of what a bacterial bloom is. So it's a sudden increase in number of bacteria colonies, and this is specifically ones that are in the water column. This is different from the ones that are known as beneficial bacteria that are on surfaces and in your filter. These ones are actually just in the water. It's most common in new aquariums, but it can also happen from too much nutrient buildup, such as if you have too many dead plants, too much debris, which will happen to me, or if you have dead fish that don't get removed. And because it is bacteria in the water and they're reproducing so rapidly, that's why it can get cloudy. They require lots of oxygen, which is the problem you'll run into, is they'll take oxygen from fish, and there won't be enough oxygen for fish unless you pump a lot of extra in. But unless you get the problem under control, the source of them reproducing, then it's going to be very hard for you to add enough oxygen to compete with them if they keep reproducing and keep getting more and more. And lastly, an ammonia spike can happen from it. This didn't happen to me, probably for me doing multiple water changes each day once I realized I had the problem, but an ammonia spike, it can't happen from this. So now learning about bacterial bloom and what can be done, and especially since I could tell that my fish were having trouble breathing and not having enough oxygen, what I did that night was I added another air stone and another air pump for my 36 gallon. And it was late, so I did not do a water change at this point. I was pretty exhausted from the day, and I didn't realize how serious the problem would be. Reading online, it didn't really indicate how sudden of a problem this could become, but I added the air pump and then went to bed, and then the next morning, as soon as I woke up, I checked on the tank, and things had escalated much worse overnight. So right away, I had noticed that all the clown loaches were still in this corner, breathing very heavily, except unfortunately one was floating at the top and had passed away. And then my adult polar parrot was lying on his side, breathing very heavily, very pale, and as well everyone else was just looking not too well, just overall very stressed. So at this point, I decided to do even more research on bacterial blooms, especially now that I had fish dying, and especially looked into them having trouble breathing. And the recommendations were to add more air pumps, do water changes, and then especially remove any debris. Now that was likely what my problem was, pretty much almost guaranteed. So I had the 2 islands, and then especially back here behind this one, there was a lot of debris building up there. And we had cooked peas a couple nights before, and we probably fed the same amount that we usually did to this tank, but previously we had probably double the amount of fish that would eat them, because we also had 6 yo-yo loaches and now we don't have them. So we should have fed less, 1, and 2, we had definitely quite a few areas where debris was just building up in the tank that hadn't been cleaned for weeks. And so once the peas settled there, the extra ones that weren't eaten, bacteria just kind of spiraled out of control and got real serious real quick. But anyway, so that morning what I did is I did about a 50% water change right away. And then I knew I needed more oxygen in the tank. That seemed like the most urgent thing, other than actually cleaning out the debris. So as soon as PetSmart opened that morning around 9 a.m., I went and I got another big air pump, one that was rated for 80 gallons. So I was running that. So in total at this time, I was running 2 Aquarium Co-op USB air pumps with air stone each, a air pump just for like a 10 to 20 gallon tank with a few air stones on it, and then I had now this 80 gallon air pump with another 3 to 4 air stones on it. Probably have about 7 air stones in general running with 3 different air pumps on this tank to get as much oxygen as I could, and I kind of spread out the air stones all along the tank to help it the best I could. And the last thing I did was looking up solutions to the problem. One was a UV filter was very recommended, so I ordered one on Amazon that was able to be shipped the next day. It's this one right here. This is an internal one. I had seen other ones that were like inline that I could use on my canister filter, but that seemed like a lot of extra steps to actually set up and make sure I cut the tubing and have the right tubing and all that. So I just went with an internal one and got this one, and it said it was going to arrive the next day, so I figured that's probably my best bet for right now. And then over the rest of the day, things just kind of got worse. So probably every 3 to 4 hours, unfortunately, a clown loach passed away. And so that was very difficult to see and very unfortunate. And eventually my adult polar parrot, who was lying on the ground, did also pass away. And then once the work was finished, I did another water change and was trying to clean behind the decorations and get as much of the debris out as I could. And behind some of the islands, some of the rocks, there's definitely some pockets of a lot of debris, unfortunately. Now that was it for that day. And so the next day came, and when I woke up, there were no more casualties in the tank, but the fish still looked stressed, especially the 2 clown loaches I had left were breathing very heavily, and everyone still looked overall stressed, but it looked like I had, with all the air stones, had at least gotten it to an okay state. And so midday, the UV filter came in. I set that up as soon as I could and got that running. And then I had been doing smaller water changes too. I did a smaller water change that morning and another smaller water change that night, just to keep trying to reduce the bacteria in the water column. And that was pretty much the end of it. In total, I lost 5 clown loaches, so I had 7, now I have 2. Unfortunate to lose any of them, but one thankful thing is my largest one, Rita here, she did not pass away, so that is a very, very positive thing. It's also very sad that I lost my adult polar parrot. I had lost the other adult one I had just to a bacterial infection maybe a month or 2 ago, so unfortunately now I only have this baby one that I got kind of recently. But anyway, I want to talk about quickly what I did wrong. I pretty much mentioned it, so I'll touch on it real quick. But the main thing was just too many spots in the tank behind rocks where debris could build up and I didn't have any water flow in there. And because I always had the intention of cleaning them eventually and moving stuff out, but because the Aquascape is relatively new, I didn't clean them at all. And there was just too many pockets where things just went directly to. Now that combined with likely overfeeding peas and some of the peas just getting there, I saw when I was cleaning them out, a lot of them that have very, very thick film on them, and they had only been fed like 2 or 3 days ago, so it escalated very quick. Now just to wrap up the video, the future plans for the tank are, the first thing, I am going to get some more clown loaches soon, since they do prefer groups of about 5 or more. So I used to have 7, now I only have 2, so I'm going to get more of those in the near term. I'm probably just going to keep the kind of destroyed look of the tank for a while. It still kind of looks cool. I'm going to reattach the plants and make it look nicer for a bit. In the long term though, I probably will just completely end up redoing it. Probably do a scape that's easier to clean, easier to move the rocks apart so I don't have this problem again. And I will do another update on the tank once I clean up the scape and get it all settled. If you stayed through the whole video, I appreciate it. And if you did enjoy it, please consider subscribing and liking the video. Next weekend, I'll be escaping my goldfish tank, so look forward to content on that in the near term. And anyways, I'll close out the video here. So thanks again for watching.